Hey guys, and welcome to Sounds Like NYC, the only podcast dedicated to spotlighting New York City talent. And today, we are welcomed by Naveed.
What's good? It's your boy Naveed Ahmed from Queens, New York, coming at you.
Yeah, so tell us a little about yourself.
Oh, man, well, I started. It's your boy Naveed Ahmed from Queens, New York, coming at you. Yeah, man, I'm born and raised in Woodside, 7 Train, you know the vibes. And currently I'm a solo artist making, for now, pop, alternative, hip-hop. We'll see, whatever, wherever the wind takes me. I have songs that in the tank that range from, rock, EDM. Hopefully as the months come by and I release, more singles, hopefully I'll get to show off the range of my influences and the range of my versatility as an artist. Right now I have one song out. It is called Somehow I. Find me on all platforms, Naveed Ahmed, going by my real name. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Cool. So is it because you haven't found your sound yet, or just want to explore as many options?
So more so the latter, in the sense that right before debuting as a solo artist, I had spent about 6, 7, almost 8 years of my life as the frontman of a band called In Loving Memory. And In Loving Memory kind of started off as my solo project when I was 16, 17, still in high school. At that point in time, I was really into post-hardcore, metalcore type stuff. And I was, just kind of putting songs out on YouTube, doing vocal covers. And my solo project became a full band around 2014 when the guys who ended up joining my band, they all found me through my YouTube channel. So it wasn't through mutual friends or anything. They straight up found me through YouTube.
No way. That's really cool.
Yeah, and it's very lucky, I would say, because my channel wasn't, anything too big. I had probably 2,000 subscribers, which is
that's crazy though. 2,000,
which is cool, but it's nothing crazy in the
right.
The way I saw projects and bands being formed at the time was one guy would build up an audience and a following, and then you would you would find a guitarist from one state, and then a drummer from another. I thought it was gonna have to be a long game, but luckily the 3 guys who ended up joining In Loving Memory, they were already in a band together, and they were kind of looking for someone to be their frontman, a new frontman. So that was cool, and that was a huge chapter of my life. Our earlier releases, like I said, were more post-hardcore type bands like Bring Me the Horizon, Pierce the Veil, Issues, Periphery, stuff like that. So basically, we were
Oh man, don't say that.
Kids.
Never say that Periphery is a post-hardcore band.
Oh no, I had to mention.
they're gonna downvote this immediately.
I mentioned Periphery just to show we cared about technicality.
Yeah.
As much as we were writing catchy songs and crazy breakdowns, at the end of the day everyone in my band they could rip it at their instruments.
Right. Okay,
and
nice.
Once upon a time, Periphery was my favorite band.
Oh, what happened?
You
grew up.
Yeah, we could say that. You could sum it up as that. I was gonna say P4, that album kind of lost me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
P1 and P2 were definitely my favorites. How about you?
Yeah. I think I really got into them because of Juggernaut. So the double albums of that, those were pretty good. And P4 is great, but for me it's definitely P2 and P3. I didn't really listen to P3, but P3. So for me it's probably P2, P3, and then Alpha and Omega, which is where. That was the height of me listening to them.
Yeah, I kind of got into them.
I have no idea what the fuck you guys are talking about, to be honest. I probably listened to one song.
Yeah.
I got into them around when they only had P1.
Yeah.
So that they were the first band to straight up blow my mind. I'm this is what's possible with gent, progressive metal, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was I gotta try out a 7-string,
Yeah.
So that's how I fell down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. So when this was all going on, what year was it?
20. I would say we were kind of in the metal post-hardcore realm until 2018 or so.
Okay.
So by then we had 2 EPs out, and we were doing our thing locally, playing shows mostly in New York City. We had, I would say, a couple of highlight shows that we had. We were able to play Gramercy Theater twice.
Nice.
And that was crazy because that's a venue that I grew up attending.
I actually saw Pliny, Tesseract, and Asteroid. I don't know if you know who they are.
I definitely know Pliny and Tesseract.
Yeah, so Asteroid.
Okay,
so
so you were a
Asteroid
prog
is kind
kid,
of
straight up.
yeah. I'm still a huge prog guy and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be real with you. I was just there for Pliny. So
Got you. No, he's crazy.
So yeah, so I don't know why I left, because looking back now, I should have stayed for like Tesseract. I don't know what I was thinking, but I left before Tesseract came on. Which,
Got you.
looking back now, I don't know why I did. I was just so satisfied with like seeing Pliny, but like looking back now, I should have stayed for, you know.
You missed out on 2/3 of your money, basically.
Essentially, right? Yeah. Even then, I don't know why I would leave. I don't know. I was just so satisfied.
Yeah, like,
no, I was
okay.
just so satisfied.
I mean,
seeing,
yeah,
like, Pliny live.
you really wanted that
Yeah.
one
Was he
artist.
the headliner?
That felt worth it to you.
No, he was. No, he wasn't. So Tesseract was like the headliner, but yeah.
So what? You came late, or
No, like I
Oh,
came
you
straight on
early.
time, so I just
Okay.
saw the two first bands, so
then you
Pliny
dipped early, yeah.
and Asteroid, and then I left. looking back now, I don't know. Yeah, because at that time I wasn't really into like Tesseract. I mean, because I feel like once you've like heard them live, once you've like heard them in like kind of like album wise, you've like heard them live and stuff like that.
For
That's
some
how I used to
bands-
think.
for some bands,
but
that
like
could be true.
regardless, like seeing them live, I wish I would have seen them live. Just like, because they are all amazing musicians, and I like watched like a few of their like live shows after the fact, and I'm like, damn, I'm like.
Yeah, there are definitely some artists.
I was
that,
right
like,
there. Why didn't I stay?
There are definitely some artists that even when you like, if you just happen
Power
to see
move.
them live,
fuck that?
there are definitely some artists that if you just happen to see them live, like let's say you're passing by them at a festival or they're just on a tour package and you're there to see someone else. Sometimes if their live show is like good enough on its own, and you can enjoy it when you don't even know their music yet, and you'll be
Yeah.
like, yo, I gotta listen to this later.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's definitely the goal I always had, like when we were doing our thing in loving memory, and just as a performer in general, it's like my goal is, there's a room full of people, assume most of them don't even know who I am, they haven't heard our stuff. How do I win them over? Because
Right.
there are countless bands I've watched where I'll be bopping my head while they're playing their thing, but I won't be. I won't have the
Just
thought of
background
like,
music.
yeah, I won't remember them. I won't have the thought of like, yo, I gotta check them out
Right.
later. And so, and then it's like, how do you make sure that at the very least, the people that it's free exposure. You're playing in front of
Right.
these people. You got to make sure you win them over, and then hopefully they like you
how
enough.
do you do that? Like, how do you make a good performance?
In my opinion, there's definitely, like, as the front man of my band, one thing I always tried to do was you always have to address the crowd directly. One thing I got good at from playing smaller shows is that, you look particular people in the eye if you notice they're vibing, point at them and smile while you're singing a lyric, little things like that to engage with people one-on-one. And then, if you're, let's say a part in a song comes up and you're like, all right, I want to see everyone clapping their hands, you command them to move or engage with you in easy ways.
Right.
Anyone can clap their hands.
For sure.
Anyone can go like this, anyone can jump up and down, if you command a crowd with confidence, I think that's one of the most important things.
Okay, yeah,
It's kind of fun. Like, I would think, like, why not take like a public speaking?
That definitely
thing,
helps
what I
as
mean?
well. That definitely helps as well. Especially one thing I really like to do when I have the time for it is before you play a song, always take a few seconds to give it the context. Be like, hey, this song is about, this, that. Especially because, obviously not every song is as serious as others. Some
Right.
songs are just like, yo, my heart, a girl broke my heart. You don't need to, you don't need to go, but, there are songs that I've written about, things like, this is about my experience, as a first generation American. Like things that I never heard artists sing about that I know, there are so many kids, so many people in general who need this type of message. So whenever I'm playing a song like that, I always make sure to, before even performing the song, give that context. Because otherwise, and especially, you can't count on the sound system in whatever venue you're playing. For all you know, the sound guy may have slacked that night. Your vocals might not come through. People might miss those lyrics. But if you
Right.
give them if you give them some context in the beginning, they know you've calibrated them to know what to
Fill in the
listen
pieces
for.
in later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's like one of the pitfalls of like performing in America. I think just like unreliable venues in general. But
Absolutely.
we could like talk about that later. But like for me, you were like talking about how like some of your lyrics have dealt with you being a first generation American. But what I want to know is how does a Bangladeshi American kid get into like metal in the first place, considering that, I mean, for me, like I know myself that I'm from like a Caribbean background, from a, you know, my mom's like a pastor and everything, so, you know, metal, you know, and stuff like that wasn't like, you know, exactly liked in the house. But like for you, how is it like discovering metal and stuff like that? And, like,
I'm very
dealing
glad.
with your parents.
I'm
with
very
like all
glad
that.
you brought that up with this context, because like my poor parents, like it's hilarious when I think about it. It's like when I'm at that age, like around 15 or 14, 15, that's when I started getting into metal and doing all that stuff. It's like I put my poor immigrant parents through a lot, like especially because 15 was around the age that I started like learning how to scream. So like,
my God.
imagine.
At least you didn't play drums.
That's true. I mean, that would have, in my tiny Queens apartment, that would have been out of the question.
My mom would have tried to exercise me right there if I started trying to like.
There were definitely,
growl and
thankfully
stuff like that.
by the time I was a teenager, both my parents were working, so I was home alone often enough where I could, scream like an idiot in peace. But there were definitely times where, like, let's say I had to record something at home, back in the day I'm rocking like, low quality USB mics. I really did it all, no lie. But I can just imagine what my parents are thinking, like, what is this kid doing? And I remember my first Warped Tour that I went to was in 2011, and my parents drove me and a couple of my friends, like, because as far as they know, they're just like, all right, where he's going to like some concert or whatever. When they picked me up that night, as everyone's leaving, my mom's like, yo, we're never taking you back here. What is this? All these gothic people? Like, what is this? That's what she called it. I'm just like, fair enough. And then so every year after that, I had to find a ride.
Wow,
because they were like, nah, we're not taking you back to that. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
So it was definitely hella awkward being and at the time, probably the only Bengali kid that I knew into rock and metal. And it's very interesting. I'm very glad you bring up specifically as a Bangladeshi. It was weird because a lot of the South Asian kids, especially here in New York City, I feel like they grow up resonating a lot more with hip-hop culture, black culture, because, a lot of us brown kids, we don't really have role models in Western culture that directly look like us, so we kind of find...
Thank God for Hassan, then.
Hassan Minaj, that's my guy, for sure. He's one of many faces, back when we were younger,
he wasn't, exactly.
We had even less. But I find it very interesting to see how, in fact, a lot of, and, I'm not to say that, like, it's funny because I usually talk about, how the white man has kept me down, how the white man has made me feel out of place. But no, my fellow brown people contributed too. They were some of the ones being like, yo, Naveed, why are you making this white boy music? Why, they kind of clowned me in that regard. So it was like, in a lot of ways, I felt too whitewashed to fit in with my fellow brown people. But then obviously, among white people, I'm like probably they probably view me not
the most
too
spicy,
far.
the most spicy person they've met.
Let's go with that.
I too like halal food,
You know what we should get today?
Dude, you know what gets me tight? That low-key triggered me in a funny way. Because people be like, yo, do your parents make halal food? I'm like, bruh. We're like so far east of where you're thinking of. Like, it's just like sometimes they might as well just be like, yo, I'm ignorant. Like, that's all I hear out their mouths. But it's on a serious note, that's something that I'm keeping in mind as I, move forward as an artist. Like, even just the fact that, like, I play guitar, things like that, those are elements that I try to keep at the forefront of, like, my branding and my musicianship, because I want the next generation of brown kids to get used to seeing, oh, okay, here's a brown guy that, plays instruments, as opposed to just a lot of the other, Desi artists I see, they're trending towards like the hip hop and rap side of things.
Well, good thing. I mean, but you probably know him, like a Rudy, a YouTuber. I forgot where he's from specifically. I know that he's like Arab.
Asian?
I think he is. Because to be honest, I'm pretty ignorant about that part of the road too.
Oh, good.
So
a
like,
lot of people.
Please like teach me and stuff like that. But I know that he's like, I think he is kind of like Southeast Asian. I'm pretty sure. But he's like a YouTuber, and like he's probably kind of like the only person from that like ethnic background doing the whole guitar, metal guitarist, instrumental guitarist thing. Ruby.
The name doesn't ring.
Doesn't ring? Yeah. Well, he's not like a well, I mean, he's a pretty K-Mac. K-Mac 101. Oh, dude, I gotta show.
That sounds, put me on, because that sounds familiar.
After, yeah. But like, anyway, like, you should definitely check him out, because like, yeah, he's definitely, probably like one of the few that are like really kind of like stepping forward and like giving like representation.
But it's funny because like, a lot of usually when I'm talking my shit about representation, a lot of people will respond in a similar way of like, yo, but what about this guy? I'm like, that's one guy though.
Yeah.
For every one guy of that, there's like 1,000 white dudes doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So that became definitely the most apparent to me in the summer of 2018 when me and my bandmates in Loving Memory, we followed all of Van's Warped Tour like
you were telling
the country.
us
I was telling you
before
about it.
Like,
that's crazy.
So this was
like just whatever America, and then just going into like a scene that already doesn't like have representation.
Absolutely.
Like
I'll put it, I've never felt more like a minority in my life because there were let's crunch some numbers. My engineering background about a show real quick. Okay, so let's see. There were about I remember there were about 35 Warped Tour dates that we hit. Each one is sold out because it's the last year that the tour was going cross country. So for a lot of people, it's like, whoa, this is the last chance. We all got to go. And let's say each venue, like obviously capacities vary, but it's somewhere between 10 and 20,000. Let's assume an average of 15,000 people per show times. Okay, let's see if I can do this. 15,000 people per show times 35 shows. That is 525,000.
520,000.
Yes.
Should I do the math?
525,000. I think
25.
You know what? If I'm wrong, y'all can clown me in the comments. I'm pretty confident on that.
Knows math.
But that about 500,000 faces that I was around. Do you know how many South Asians I met that summer? Because obviously, if I see,
wow, you were right on the money.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, 525,000.
That's what I said. Yeah. Cool. That's
a throwback
back to that song.
Yeah. But you were saying?
I literally met 5 South Asians that summer.
I'm surprised you met 5.
That's what I'm saying.
He was looking for them, bro.
He was looking for them.
He had a fucking sign. Like,
bro, I was like,
yo.
But it's funny because that's how it felt, but also at the same time, like, I mean, I'm sure you guys know what it's like when you're the only person of color in a room, or like one of the only ones, y'all tend to gravitate towards each other because it's like, so we here, aren't we?
Like, oh, you're like
Hello there,
me
fellow.
because we are also not like them.
Absolutely, and as hilarious as it is, and I'm sure it's second nature to all of us at this point in our lives. Like that's just how we, we're used to code switching in those types of spaces,
100%.
but I think it just goes to show what a serious, like how representation is important at every level in our lives. Not just like I need to see brown people on TV. It's not just that. It's on the micro level of like I don't feel comfortable in this environment, or I feel like I can't fully be myself in this environment that I'm in on a regular basis. And because we've known no other alternative, we never stop to think like, what could we do about this?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only thing we can do is just like to put that behind us and just try to do whatever the fuck we want to do for like the next generation of
Absolutely.
kids. So they could see like, oh, cool. So there's people like me doing this sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. So
and that's as I was saying, that's a huge motivation with what I'm trying to do as an artist. At the end of the day, I'm just, all we can do is be our best selves, show up fully and authentically, and by doing a good job of being ourselves and showing that confidence in our identities, that comfort in our own skin, I feel like that is the best shot as far as being able to inspire the next generation to do the same.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think that's a good segue into
the
song.
Because like for you, so you've kind of you kind of transitioned from like the metalcore world, the Warped world and stuff like that. So in terms of the personal music you're doing now, in terms of the music that you're putting under your own name now, like it's just like a mix of like all those genres you were telling us before, or is that music that you just like engineer? But for yourself, is there like a specific type of music you're like really grabbing onto?
Got you. Yeah. So I like that question.
I make good questions. Thank you. Yeah.
You definitely do. You both do.
You
Definitely.
make me question myself a lot.
You're welcome.
So yeah, like for at least for the foreseeable future, I don't intend to bring back those rock and metal influences, at least in an obvious way, just because it would be dishonest if I were to say that being so immersed in that culture, that music scene that made me feel so out of place for so many years, and noticing how over in that time frame I wasn't fully myself because I felt like I had to act a certain way, dress a certain way, conduct myself a certain way to fit in. I harbor a lot of resentment towards that scene now. So, and I bring this up fully to say, like, one of my biggest criticisms of that scene in that community is, you know, for a genre and a community that tries to pride itself so much on, you know, being an open, you know, being a safe space, being, you know, all encompassing, you know, accepting of everybody. Where's the diversity to show for it, right? And it wasn't until I started, you know, going to shows for, like, you know, for lack of a term, bigger artists, you know, in pop, hip hop, etc. I go to these shows, I'm like, hold up, I'm seeing people of all walks of life here. Like, and that started inspiring me more when it's like, duh, at the end of the day, these artists, like, to kind of segue into a topic of, like, you know, what is pop music really? At the end of the day, it just means popular, because at the end of the day, these are the artists who are connecting with a worldwide audience, and obviously, and that's where I took that influence, because that's the type of artist I'm trying to be. I don't want to just appeal to a certain niche demographic. I don't even want to just be appealing to my own niche of, you know, South Asians, and I want to be an artist that can appeal to anybody. I want to be able to package my story that a lot of people are not used to because of that lack of representation. And I want to be able to package that for a Western audience. And then, you know, as I, you know, reach that level for a global audience.
Okay, awesome. So is there, like, any of your songs specifically that you want us to, you know, kind of like show our audience?
Sure. I mean, I would obviously, you know, Somehow my current song that I have as Naveed Ahmed, you know, there are lyrics in there that kind of touch on, you know, the context of, you know, when my band In Loving Memory ended, you know, and this happened a few months ago. It's funny, if so much life has happened, but in reality, this was in, like, February. If, you know, funny story, our band, we broke up on Valentine's Day. That was
So
my
poetic, right?
That was my Valentine's Day this year. My 8-year relationship with my band
Like an artist does.
broke up. Yep, had to. I mean, it just ended up
Are
happening.
you guys
on
still
that
on good
day.
terms?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's
in fact,
good then.
You know, and let me give shout outs where it's due. Shout out, you know, Thomas Diagnardi. He was my drummer in the band. He produced all our music, and he is still my producer now.
Oh, sick, nice.
So he produced Somehow he produced a lot of the music that I'm going to be releasing in the near future.
So that's the single that you want to show everybody?
Yes, sir. Let the people know about Somehow on
Somehow I? Okay, then let's.
It's the only song I have out at the moment.
Yeah. So you're drummer, and because you guys were like a 3-piece, right? So you got.
So we were originally a 4-piece, then a 3-piece, and then for the last, like, 2 years of the band, it was actually just me and him.
That's crazy. Wow.
So yeah, we were kind of like on some like
Royal Blood, but
on some like 21 Pilots kind of
yeah,
flow.
yeah. Wow, that's crazy. All right.
Because I mean the way we operated was like I was writing a lot of the songs, and Tom, I called him our drummer because at our shows he played drums, but Homeboy plays every instrument at an incredibly high level.
Awesome.
He's been producing for years, so he's
That's the type of person
hell
you want
talented
in a
dude.
band.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Like
Someone else calls out, like, boom.
I'll put it this way, like he himself is the equivalent of like 4 or 5 talented musicians.
Wow, that's crazy.
So
we should have him on.
I'll let him know. Yeah, I'm sure he'll see this episode. Then I'll hit him up.
Definitely.
He lives in Long Island, but I'm sure he'll pop out.
Okay, yeah, sure.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, let's get into listening to Somehow I.
All right.
Yeah.
Good pay, it's the immigrant dream. 25 years old, was supposed to have a 6-figure job by now, but I'm still so convinced I could be somebody. Change the whole damn world with the hobby. I tried once, but it won't be the death of me. I look back, find love in the memories. Somehow I heard in every single way. Somehow I live to fight another day. Somehow I, if you only knew. Somehow I learned to finally be free. Somehow I gave it all to.
So, hey guys, welcome back to this episode of Sounds Like NYC. And we just finished listening to, I forgot the name of the song. Somehow I.
We need to go through every single fucking episode. Every time we come back. You do this.
David, not now, we have guests. Come on.
I want to have a collection, like a collage.
Yeah, sure.
A compilation
if you want to make
of
it,
all
yeah. I mean, if you want to do it, be my guest.
Do we have all the fucking?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, YouTube. But anyway,
He's
we
like,
were just
"You can
listening
edit it."
to your latest single. Do you want to give us a bit? Because to be honest, I haven't heard of it.
What's the name?
Or like I haven't heard it yet.
What's the name?
Somehow leave me alone.
Okay.
All right.
So I haven't listened to it yet. I'm not sure if David has. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I did.
Oh, okay.
We talked about it in the email. So suck.
Okay. Anyway, so what's the background of the song? The artistic direction you were going for,
Sure.
and all of that
Sure.
jazz.
I guess we'll start with the lyrical context. So the song is ultimately an anthem about perseverance. The chorus, I say, somehow I learned to finally be free. Somehow I gave it all to find my peace. When my band in loving memory had ended after 8 years, that was obviously a shock. Imagine an 8-year relationship of yours ending, like a whole chapter of your life that you poured your heart and soul into.
Puppy just gone, lost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like this is my baby, my puppy,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. And it really put me in a position where I had to, answer the question like, Naveed, what are you going to do about music? Are you going to at times it was very demoralizing to feel like, damn, like I put all these years of my life into music and now it feels like I'm starting at zero, that I have nothing to show for it. And especially, as you get older, the pressures, as you get older, it becomes harder to pursue anything entrepreneurial or creative to the facet that you want, because the pressures of real life set in.
Right.
Your family
more
expects
responsibilities.
more responsibilities. Family expects you to, stick to a traditional safe path, because especially, coming from a South Asian household, that is quite literally what I was put on this earth to do.
I mean, listen, look, any sort of immigrant thing.
Exactly. Absolutely. Almost any immigrant kid is like, we were put here with that context of like, yo, our parents went through
We were
wild...
put here so that our parents could get green cards. Yes.
Absolutely.
Pretty much.
And we were put here like ultimately, to make all their sacrifices to make it
For sure.
here in America.
Yeah.
We're supposed to make that worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys feel like from a very young age, probably as early as you can remember, that just comes with so much pressure.
I mean, David knows I am a terrible, terrible chance to bet on. Right, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for sure, like
Yeah.
at this point, especially when COVID hit, I was working full time as a civil engineer, and then since COVID, I was already in between jobs, but then when the pandemic hit, I'm like, you know what? Obviously, I'm not going to be able to work anytime soon, because when the pandemic was like fresh, ain't nobody was going outside. So I was like, you know what? Let me take this time to reflect, work on music, et cetera, et cetera. And when by the time the band had ended, I was in a position where I'm like, I could maybe this part of me was like, maybe I'm supposed to throw in the towel at music. Be the engineer I was supposed to be, live happily ever after,
Right.
AKA stable. But, obviously the fire in me told me, nah, like this is the time where I'm supposed to reinvent myself, find out who I truly want to be as an artist, and, come back stronger than ever. And somehow I, as the product of that, like somehow in the face of that, what felt like defeat, somehow when I was in the position where, this is where most people would turn back, this is where most people would give up, somehow, I pushed through all of it, and here I stand before you today. Well, I'm sitting before you today.
Awesome.
But here I sit before you, I feel more confident when it comes to music than ever. I feel more rejuvenated. I feel like, making this change and becoming a solo artist, like now I'm confident and ready to be the artist that I feel like I was always meant to be.
I mean, so how important was it to like have this song be the first song you release as an independent artist?
So that...
Well, as a single. Solo.
Absolutely. So to answer that question, I'll put it this way. By the time In Loving Memory had broken up, and even right now, I have dozens of songs, almost, a lot of them are close to finished, if not finished, because they were going to be songs that were going to be used for In Loving Memory. And when this huge change in my life had happened, I knew that I had to write something fresh. I had to write something that properly addresses how I'm feeling at this stage of my life as I'm going through this huge life transition. Something that answers the question to all of my current, followers who are following me through this transition. I have to answer the question of like, what now, Naveed? Like this, I had to write a song that simultaneously addresses, my current fan base and tells them like, hey, this is what I've been going through since In Loving Memory ended. This is where I'm at now. And then I also have to give context to hopefully, all the new listeners that are going to come in. Like, hey, what's up? You're just finding me now, but there's a whole lot of history behind me. So let me bring you up to speed.
Okay, nice.
And that's why that's how somehow I came about. Hence, the chorus is very anthemic and simple lyrically, but then the verses you're gonna hear as you will listen for the first time.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the verses are more dense. You have more rapping, more more lyrically driven stuff to give that context, as I said.
So, what does your kind of like standard kind of like artistic process / songwriting / recording process look like?
Yeah, so I would say for the most part, like it usually, as the years have gone by, I've definitely centered more on like the vocals, like building around the vocals. Oftentimes, classic case of like my phone is full of voice memos of me just humming random melodies and you know how it goes. Usually it's at nighttime when you're falling asleep and you can't really like, you can't necessarily just get up and, grab your guitar, plug in, maybe you're too tired. So I'll just be like literally I'm about to reenact a typical voice memo. I'll be like, all right, this kind of tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll hum the bass line. D, A, B, G. Like if I hear the chord progression in my head, I'll be like, okay, these are the root notes, so I, don't forget it later. And then I'll do the melody on top, and then I kind of piece it together the next day.
Nice, wow.
So
when you start piecing together stuff, what does that look like for you?
Usually
like,
starts with
which DAW do you use?
I don't produce my stuff, but like I not the final versions, not the final versions, but like for making demos and stuff, I use Reaper.
Okay, yeah,
hella underrated.
Yeah,
it gets
free shit.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but have you actually paid for yours?
Yes.
Yes. You heard that, FBI?
Absolutely.
Yes. I have paid for mine.
I pay for all of my DAWs and plugins. Absolutely. Absolutely. I am an upstanding citizen.
I didn't know there was any other way to do it.
Yeah.
You only had to pay.
Yeah, of course.
Wait,
because we live in a civilized society.
Wait,
obviously.
If I didn't pay for it, that would be illegal, dude.
Exactly,
Yeah,
completely
I wouldn't get it if I
illegal.
didn't pay for it.
No, not even illegal. It would be morally reprehensible, and we are outstanding immigrant children.
We are
Correct.
good. We are
course,
good
yes.
first generation
Yes,
Americans.
yes, we are.
Absolutely.
You hear that, Biden? But anyway, yeah. So okay.
I think Biden would get a heart attack if you listened to like what the fuck we were talking about.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Too many words at one time for him. But yeah, okay. So you use Reaper, but like, so you don't really deal with like any like sort of like templates or anything. Like you just record stems to just send them.
I'm definitely like. So when I record with Tom, like, I mean, the way we always did it in Loving Memory is probably going to be the same way we continue to do it because we've just had such a good workflow.
Take my
over the
mess
years.
and make something with it.
Here's my voice
I
memo.
usually,
Have fun.
I'd like to think that for someone who isn't a producer, I'm pretty involved in the production process.
Yeah, that's
like,
good.
I'll usually make like a scratch version of a beat. I'll compose a lot of the instrumentals, but as far as like, do I know exactly what kick sample I want, what snare, what hi-hats? Not always, but I'll always come to the table with references. I'll be like, I want a kick that hits as hard as like, this song, or I want the 808 to bump like this song. Usually it's Pop Smoke because his songs, the 808s are crazy, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll use like the way, like when Tom or anyone I work with, once they have a mix for me, then it becomes a very like, here's a Google Doc with all the edits, send it back to you, boom, boom, boom. So I'm very involved in production in that sense. I'll put it this way: I don't have the technical prowess to like mix a track, but I definitely have the the sense of like, okay, I know what vibe I want. I know what instrumentation more or less I want. I know like I'll be like, I want this kind of swell effect to make this transition into the chorus pop more. Do I know how to physically do that? No, but I know how to communicate that to a producer.
So
I think that's probably the best thing
Yeah.
you got going for you. Like, you know what you want.
Yeah.
So, like, you make it easier for the person on the other side of
which leads me to ask, like, do you, because I'm also kind of in like a similar situation where, like, I mean, I know how to mix. Am I the greatest? No, I'm not.
Yes.
And yes, actually I am, for the purposes that we have planned for the future. But just between you and me, I'm not. No, but like, you know, at this point, like, I definitely understand my own limitations, especially because I don't have like any like monitors. I'm just mixing like on earphones, so I will never realistically get my mixes to sound to translate as well as somebody who has like a set of monitors and stuff like that. But that will be changing soon. But for the time being, I still don't have.
Comes with a lot of, you know, investing in gear.
Yeah, exactly, right? But, you know, I'll be buying some like good monitors soon. But anyway, so because for me, like at this point, I'm gonna be sending some of my stuff off to like a few mix engineer friends that I have. Like what like pieces of advice do you have for, like, you know, artists who are working with a producer, as in, you know, how they should send tracks? I mean, obviously, like, you should send the whole track and not just like the actual, you know, stem within like the whole timeline.
How can we get the artist to make it easier for the person?
Exactly.
Got you. Okay, I see the question. Yeah, how can you be the best client?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
First of all, before you bring a song of yours to a producer and expect them to make your product sound, you know, great, I would first, and this is more on the songwriting side of things rather than the production side of things, you know, if your song, if you can strip it down to just, you know, piano, chords, and melody, and you just sing over it, and it still hits, then you know you have a good song. Because at the end of the day, like, crazy production is, in my opinion, not going to save a song that compositionally doesn't already have substance. So I guess step one is, you know, make sure that you can play your song live to yourself, even stripped down, and it feels good to you. Like that, you know, because at the end of the day, it's what's the phrase, like you can only polish a turd so much or something like that. Yeah. And then as far as you know, what you can do to, once you have a song that you're confident in, what can you do to make it easier for the producer? Practice the hell out of it. In fact, when I go in to record vocals, I record everything with Tom, so I don't usually. I can demo things on my own at home and send it to him for reference, but like obviously though, he has a better microphone and a better treated room versus what I have. So when I go to record vocals or whatever it is, and perhaps this is just the type of singer I am. I know a lot of singers prefer to like go into the studio and, you know, experiment with a lot of different performances for different lines, you know, try different things. And I do some of that if Tom, you know, sometimes he'll be like, yo, try a harmony here or try performing it this way. But for the most part, if he doesn't bring up anything, I walk into a session knowing in my head exactly how I want every single line to sound. I know down to the point of like, you know, he'll be like, wait, that take sounded good. I'm like, nah, that S needed to be held out just a tiny bit longer. Like, trust me. Like, it becomes a process usually where I'm just like, yo, just hit record for me and I will tell you what to do from there. So,
nice.
So to sum it up, if you're an artist and you want to be, you know, a better client and just be more efficient in the studio, definitely practice your song inside out before you go into your session, especially on the recording side. Like, practice actually, I think it's worth it for any songwriter, even if you're not a full-fledged producer, to at least invest enough in, like, you know your way around a DAW, have like at least a decent microphone that you could lay down demos with. Like, put yourself in a position where you can at least make ideas where you don't have, put yourself in a position where you can actually show producers something instead of just having to tell them all these abstract terms, like, I want something that sounds sad and, you know, whatever. Versus, you know, if you say, hey, I think this sound in this song, timestamp here, it helps the song have a certain vibe. What can you do to I want that kind of vibe here. Things like that.
It's also like you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So it's better to like as an artist to like at least have a decent grasp of like what's going on. Like so like I might not know how to do this, but I know that I want this to sound like this, and now I can communicate better with somebody who knows how to get to that point.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, okay, awesome. Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, it's just like so. Sometimes it's just like
I wonder who has a harder time,
who.
the artist or the producer.
What do you think? Because you and Tom, like, you guys are basically synergy.
Yeah, we've had our
101,
we've had our synergy locked and loaded for years, which is why for us it's never been an issue.
Yeah.
But I think. Yeah, it could really depend
I feel
on.
like it's
it
like
could really
harder-
be a case by case thing.
I feel like it's probably for the artist because that's like their, baby on the line. Like the producer, depending on how.
Exactly. So that's why the producer has such a fucking hard time because like it's your baby.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, I want this, I want that, I want that.
It's funny because I've heard. I mean, I am the artist, so I am on that side.
Yeah.
But I've also worked with enough producers who have had to deal with artists who, quite frankly, don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
Like a random situation. I won't name the producer in question because But like a common example will be like a producer is tracking guitar for an artist, and they're let's say they didn't practice enough, they're not nailing their part right, or they want a certain guitar tone that they insist on using their own gear for because the
It's become
artist
a meme at this point.
Yeah.
Just like Glenn Fricker, right? Glenn Fricker.
Who's that?
Spectre Sound Studios.
Yes. Long hair dude.
Yeah.
Basically, stuff like that, where the artist has their own ego. They're like, no, we got to use
Let me get
my
Line
gear.
6 Spider right
I bought this, therefore I have to use
Yeah.
it on my recording. And the producer.
That's why you always
and the
record a
producer-
DI, especially when it comes to guitarists. It's
Definitely.
like,
And the producer already knows in their head, like, this is
No.
going to sound like ass. I'm going to use my plugins or whatever later when they're gone.
Yeah.
Because if I do it in front of them, they're going to keep arguing about it.
Yeah.
It's like things like that. So I guess for an artist, like, learn to swallow your pride on things like that don't matter.
to be honest, yeah.
Know your lane.
Exactly.
Know your fucking lane.
Yeah, because for me, like
I promise you, nobody's going to care that you use your new reverb pedal on this
definitely
recording.
not. Because
Especially if it's not going to sound the best.
Yeah, because for me at this point, like I do, like for the songs that I have for my debut album that I have planned, like I've just said, I still like these songs, but I've just been, it's been over a year, probably 2 years of just like working on these songs and stuff like that, and I'm just tired of like working on them, so I just want them out. And like the guitar tones that I have printed aren't bad. Like I use very, very like good sounding plugins, IRs, the whole works and stuff like that. So for me, like I really don't want to have to like re-record anything right now because I just want. I'm like half tired of the project at this point. So who knows if I'll change because I do want the best results, obviously.
Right.
But I am satisfied with like the tones that I've recorded and stuff like that. So when I send it to whoever I'm gonna send it to, I think most likely I'm just gonna send kind of like the printed stuff and just say, hey, if you really want me to, I could send the raws, but I'm pretty satisfied with these sounds and stuff like that.
That's
like,
fair. And I
like
think,
for me, I'm not gonna be annoying about it.
I get you. And I think in that sense, to go back to your earlier question of like who has the harder time, the artist or producer, the producer definitely has the harder time in the sense that they're the ones who have to zone in, put the headphones on, and listen to the same song over and over just to be like, oh, does the bass need to be cut a little more at 250 hertz or whatever the number is? Like that, that fatigue from listening to a song over and over, especially as you're trying to judge a mix, is very real. Like I've had to see Tom over the years, get
lose more hair.
Starts
like
graying and
he
thinning.
would get frustrated over mixes, and then you have to take time to step away from it in order to come back to it with fresh ears. Or sometimes they're like if he worked on a mix. Let's say he worked himself too much, like, you spend too much time on it where your ears become fatigued, and then he'll send me a mix, and I'll be like, dude, I really don't think that this part should have sounded like this, and I feel bad saying that to him,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah,
I know
no,
how
yeah.
much time you just put
Yeah.
into it. But then I'm like, I trust that over time, give it a few days, you'll come back and realize, okay, he was right.
Yeah, like shout out to Joey Papa. Actually, so Joey Papa is like another artist, producer, engineer that we've had on, and he actually did Warped Tour like a long time ago with his band as well. And I just sent him my latest single to be like mixed and stuff like that. And I gave him like a ridiculous, just like kind of like schedule to do it in, just because I really wanted
Like
to
short
get it
notice?
out. Yeah, like on short notice. But he did a great job. Like we did like three revisions, and the more revisions we did, the more I realized from the beginning I could have just said all this stuff if I was just aware enough. So I felt so bad because it was like the
Right.
last revision. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm so sorry. Like I could have just like sent this in like the last
At least
email.
now
But
you-
like,
now you
yeah, now I know. Yeah.
That's why whenever I get a mix back, like I as the artist, I go through my like, okay, I gotta listen to this over and over to really make sure everything.
Yeah.
Before I send a round of edits and suggestions and critiques, let me make sure I have actually said everything that I want to say.
Because for me, like, because I don't want to be, because again, I do understand how hard mixing is and stuff like that, because I do it myself and stuff like that. But like when it comes to like suggestions and like edits and stuff like that, like kind of like sending that type of stuff, like what do you think is like the proper etiquette? Just like setting like a list of like 10 things you want to change. Do you think that's like a bit too much, or should you?
I think at least the way me and Tom have always operated has always worked for us, where it's like he sends the mix, I write a Google Doc, I'm like, okay, so this mix 1.1, whatever number it is, I'll be like, at 27, this guitar, bring that in the left ear instead of the right ear, because like I know I want to hear it in this ear, or whatever, things like that. Like just kind of bullet point.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then when I send it back to him and he sends back the next mix, he'll kind of cross out thing like he'll leave it to me to be like, have all your previous edits been addressed properly,
Right.
and if so, then I cross them out.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so yeah.
until we
Checklist
arrive.
type thing.
Yeah, basically like literally a checklist.
Okay, then
At
I
least
know
that's
what
how
to do.
I prefer to be very list oriented
Yeah.
in that way, and I think it just makes it smoother for all parties.
Because for me, and a problem, I actually have to end up paying one of my friends like $50 extra, like for this like art piece for like another thing that I'll be doing, because I like a lot of times I like assume that like the engineer knows what I want based on the reference I sent them, but I'm realizing now, especially,
gotta make it easier for them.
Yeah, like I
I
just gotta
agree.
explain it like I'm explaining it to like a 9-year-old, really. So you gotta
Absolutely.
be so
because
meticulous
you
with
can't
explaining.
assume, you
Yeah.
can't assume people are gonna read whatever information
Yeah.
with the same context.
Yeah.
that
Yeah, you gotta be as specific as possible, because everyone has like their own
Everyone
Yeah,
works
no.
differently. I
Filter.
agree.
Yeah, and I realize that now, and it cost me $50 or like 50 or like 5,000 yen. About
Cost you double that.
Yeah.
Dummy.
No, and I told her, I'm so
I think
sorry. Like I
there's-
realized I should have told you this more specifically.
Yeah.
But, and it
I
cost
think
me
there's no
$50,
such thing
but-
as over explaining, especially when it comes to
Yeah.
things like this. It like basically to any artist, it's like put in that time to listen to your track, listen to a mix thoroughly, and put in that time to really articulate everything. Don't just assume that a producer is gonna know what you're saying, or
Yeah.
like you said, pretend you're explaining it to someone with no context.
Yeah. All right, awesome. I mean, is there like anything that you want to end off the podcast with? Any like shout outs or like plans
It's
for
all
future
you.
events?
Don't-
Just like,
don't
oh,
let
you,
him
yeah.
just-
Yeah, David, shut up.
Just do
I
whatever
hate
you
you.
want. Say what you want.
I mean, you just like with where I'm at right now as an artist. I mean, somehow I still, hopefully circulating the internet. Please stream it. I appreciate everyone who checks it out. Follow me on Spotify. Follow me on my socials. I'm Naveed Ahmed NY on everything. I'm currently like diligently, timelining, my singles that are going to be coming out. Like right now, I'm editing what's going to be my first music video for my second single. I'll show you guys
Fancy.
off camera. Let's see what's going on. In about a month, I'm gonna be with my boys. Shout out Silver Fade Media. Those are gonna be my video guys who are doing the video that I'm working on, and then we're gonna be hanging out in Miami for Rolling Loud Festival. We're going next month. Rolling Loud, who am I gonna say? Meg Thee Stallion is playing.
Oh, nice.
Post
Cool.
Malone, Jack Harlow, DaBaby, Roddy Ricch, crazy.
Nice, okay, yeah.
Like crazy, like probably the biggest like rap hip hop festival.
Oh, okay,
and it's
nice.
just coming back
let
now.
us, just let us know if anybody over there wants to come on the podcast.
Heard. I mean, well, that's gonna be in Miami. The New York lineup just got announced. That's in like October.
Oh,
So
we got to camp out, bro.
do it. You got
Like a
to
man on the
camping
street
out.
type shit.
yeah.
Oh, that-
hand,
God.
hand out the postcard,
Yeah.
business cards.
Oh,
do-
that's
do
what
it
you
up.
mean. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, we got to hit the streets. We got to promote.
Yes, sir.
I'm all about that. All about that hustle. But while we're down in Miami, we're getting to Miami and staying there like a couple days before the festival, so we can do another music video down there, which I'm very excited for because I've never even been to Miami, let alone filming a music video, outside of New York. So I'm very excited to it feels good to be like, okay, wow, this is your second month.
The lights.
out.
Oh my
Lights
God,
cut
these
out?
lights. Yeah, because like.
You gotta walk over.
Yeah.
Word. Little break in the.
There you go.
Oh, the
Yeah,
motion.
it's
They're
like-
motion
yeah.
censored
It's
lights.
super annoying because in the other room, it's just like a switch.
They should have 2 fucking motion sensors.
Yeah.
One over there.
Yeah,
Word.
whatever. But yeah, continue.
No, it feels good that like to think like, okay, cool. You were in a band for 8 years. You did a lot of cool stuff, but it's like, okay, month number 2 of being a solo artist, you're already going to Miami to film a music video. Like,
Right.
it feels good that I'm doing things like that, and let alone with people on my team who have been friends of mine for years, and more importantly, I've been very conscious of like, I want my money to go to creatives of color, creatives who are usually first generation like myself, because at the end of the day, how am I supposed to be the representation I always wanted if I'm not also putting on for the creators who are just like me.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm
Yeah.
definitely excited for all the moves that I have coming in the near future.
Yeah, David,
And, yeah.
form me my own Avengers, my own team. Let's come on, chop.
I am your team. That's all. That's all
No,
you need.
no, I don't want you on
I'm
my
a
team.
man of like many talents.
No, you're not.
Like at least 3.
You guys are definitely a team. Just the way, like you're not like fully comfortable with people if you're not like constantly ragging on them.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's all we do. Half our relationship is just like abuse.
it's like, oh,
Gosh, it's been like what, a fucking like 9 years,
Yeah.
something like that. Too fucking. Long.
Yeah, too long. Yeah.
Anyways, but
So we cut off at 10.
huh?
Like we cut off our friendship at 10.
9.5, bro.
9.5. So October, September.
Next month.
No, okay, cool. But anyway, yeah,
Y'all are goofy.
dude. Thank you.
Y'all
I'm so
are
sorry
goofy.
about this. I'm so.
Yeah, we appreciate.
No, I love it. I love it.
But no, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you
I mean,
guys
it's,
for
like,
having
great.
me.
It's
It's
great
been lit.
having you on
It
for
has
sure.
been
Yeah.
lit. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, this has been another episode of Sounds Like NYC. Please like and subscribe to this video. Ring that bell. What else do the YouTubers say?
Thanks.
Subscribe, hit the bell.
But, yeah, you can find us on at Sounds Like NYC on all streaming platforms, Instagram, all social media,
You
basically.
stream on Instagram now?
Could
You could.
IGTV?
Yeah, IGTV, bro.
That's
Come-
real. I got
Shut
you,
up.
I got
Shut
you,
up when
I
I'm
got
playing.
you,
Thank
I
you.
got you.
Shut
You
up.
got
Shut
me
up.
there.
Shut up.
I'm your legal team now.
Thank you. Yeah. But find us everywhere, essentially, at Sounds Like NYC. See you in the next
Sir,
video.
you know the vibes.
Yeah.
Peace.